Morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is the Kubeflow community call for October 22nd, 2022. And I want to remind everyone that this meeting is being recorded and it is governed by the CNCF Code of Conduct. I want to welcome everyone today. We have a lot to get done on our agenda. And as always, we typically start by projecting what the agenda topics will be. And our first agenda topic is the release update from the release manager. Ricardo, how are you and your team doing? Is Stefano here too?
Yes, not.
Okay.
But okay, so let's.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Josh.
Go ahead.
So just FYI, we are working on two different fronts as of now. One is for 191, which we have RC2 release with some fixes from 19, and we were expecting to have 191 final release to be released this week, but unfortunately, we're waiting on this particular issue to finish, and then we can consider 191 final ready to be released. The issue itself is about the central dashboard not having a proper way to log out with the current configuration we did. Just for context, we made some changes in how we do authentication on Kubeflow, and the logout link is not working. That's, at least this is my understanding. So what I asked for confirmation with Julius yesterday is that if it's possible to document this as a non-issue and document a workaround for that, or if there's a quicker way to do a final fix for that. So my understanding is that there's a way to do that final fix, but that involves the central dashboard code. So I need confirmation from Julius if the PR is ready to be reviewed, if it's already approved, and then we can move on to do some other testing and work on the final release for 191. I believe, Matthew, you
Yeah, I'm not sure why the PR. I mean, so obviously, I said the solution, and someone, yeah, I have no idea why they did it this way. It's a really weird way to do it. But I should be able to review it and ask them to change it. But
You want me to open this or?
no, it's fine. It's fine. Don't worry about that. I just need to follow up. Some random person. I mean, I don't know if they're random. Sorry. Someone that I don't usually work with made the PR. But I need to just look at it because pretty much the solution is just that previously we were doing a post request. Now we need to do a get request, but you shouldn't initialize a get request from anything other than an A tag. But they did that, except they did for some reason an on-click JavaScript rather than just making the href of the A tag the correct thing, which is really bad for many reasons. So, so yeah, I guess the question is just how to template that variable. And I guess the bigger question is whether we need to be backwards compatible with the existing auth. What do people think about that? Because if we remove the code path and always make it a get request, anyone have any opinions about this? Anyone depending on the old behavior?
I think we can discuss that on the issue itself. But that's fine. We can keep discussing this issue. I just wanted to have this finished for 191 because I believe this is not something that blocks users.
It is annoying. Like, it has been there for a while,
yeah,
but it is annoying.
That's right.
I believe this is fixed in deploycaf, so let me just check how we fix it. Anyway, so what I'll do is I'll try and follow up with someone. Obviously, it's easier if someone else makes the PR so I can approve it. But what we'll do is we'll just cut a it's a bit annoying, but we can cut a 192, I guess, because it required me to cut a 192 for all of the components on the Kubeflow repo. So is there anything else that's going to need to be fixed?
Not at this moment. I believe this is the only one issue that it was raised yesterday. So yeah.
I mean, it's fine to do lots of patch releases. It's just a bit it's fragmenty.
Mhm.
This is also raises the yeah. Anyway, so this is also why we don't want to split. You know how Andre, just as I want to highlight this to you, this is part of the reason why I don't want to split the repo until we're like until we're ready, because like I want to be able to release things like this as new problems come up. You know, we previously don't normally do patch releases that often, but I think we should do more of them. You know,
But would it be easier if you have dashboard separated from the notebooks?
I mean,
You don't-
easier is relative here, right? Like it would definitely take less building of images, but the processes to build it would have to be set up before we move. You know, on the new repo.
But I mean, for me, it seems straightforward. We just need to remove the notebooks, build components, and that's it.
Well, that's the first step. We talked about that. Yeah.
So let's do this. Because this release related, let me see if I can get I can at some level be more involved in issues that are related to releases, and just trying to not stopping you guys to split the repos. Okay. I'm working with Julius to get this issue fixed, and then for any other issues that arises, I'll try to sync up with Julius and not and try to find ways to not block you guys to do the repo split. Okay.
Hey,
Um,
yeah, that's fine. We can talk about it later. Anyway, Tarek just messaged who's the one who made that PR. Two things can I request for you, Tarek? So if it's so when I said I kind of I get what you've done, but instead of doing it this way, let's make it an A tag when like probably need to add one. It's a bit annoying. We probably need to add one more config if we want to be backwards compatible, or we just need to remove the other configs, you know what I mean? And just have it, the href itself, just, it's the after logout URL, which obviously we're already removing the headers anyway. So probably we can just do what I did in duplicaf, which is just remove the, just make the href of the tag the logout URL template.
Okay. I'll do you have this deployment in the BlockF? Maybe I can look.
I mean, I can just message it to you, yeah, but the reason for it, I'll message you directly, but the reason for it is just because you don't want to have anything, when you have an A tag, you really want to use the href because it causes problems with like screen readers and things.
Okay.
Anyway, just we can go back. Let's move on to one. So what I'm saying is let's go back and forth on that like in the next half an hour, and then we can maybe cut a release with that so that they can release the final thing.
Okay, perfect. Yes.
but that's a great thing. Thanks. So back to the release updates. 110. As you already know, I've been talking in past meetings that the development phase for 110 has already started. Now with one good news that I get the project port for 110, now it's publicly available. So everyone can watch the development phase for Kubeflow 110. And also, I brought all the tasks that involves the working group liaisons in a way that if there is anything that could block the release to finish on time for feature freeze, please update your issue under the respective working group so we can discuss during the release team meetings. I've also started a thread with the distribution testing. We got 4, maybe 5 distribution owners already replied to my issue, which is great. I asked it for the rest of the distribution owners to also reply to that thread. We already have the some key documents for the roadmap already finished. So yeah, I think we're in a good shape for now. I would say development phase for now it's still green because I didn't hear any blockers or anything that could compromise our deadline for now. So yeah, but everyone can keep track of the release cycle progress under this project board, which is now public. I think that's it for now. The floor is open now for any questions, comments, concerns.
What's the current dates, timeline are we planning for code freeze?
Code freeze January 20th. Our idea is to release Kubeflow 110 in March 21st, but we have some other key dates. You can take a look at the community repo under the releases, release 110, and you can get the full schedule in there. You can take a look at the create release information. There's the PR where I added the information for the schedule. It's in the down board.
Can we just copy the main dates so we just bring them every time into the doc? Is it the same as they were in the old notes on the doc?
I believe
they-
because we're not logged in, you can't see the right information, but
Is
there's
it just
a history here where you can get the PR.
sorry? What?
Let's send the agenda in the meeting notes. 1 second.
Okay, anyway, cool. So the main thing I just want to know is about the dates and other things, because obviously Notebooks 2.0 is progressing, but who knows if it will be ready by then. Cool.
Yeah, no worries. Anyway, there's a tracker issue for Notebooks working group. If there's anything we should share, I believe the tracker issue for Notebooks working groups is the best place. Anyways, I added to the meeting notes all of the full schedule for Kubeflow 110.
Ricardo, great job.
Thanks, Josh.
Question. If there is one feature, one delivery, which would be a blocking issue that you would hold the release for, what would it be? Your vision right now, what would be the...
Yeah, that's a tough question. But
Okay. No,
my
that's fair.
understanding is that one of the things that we could believe that it's ready to be in place for Kubeflow 110 could be the model registry UI, the Spark operator to become a core component. But there are also some roadmap topics. I'm still working on adding them to the roadmaps document. Is the Notebooks 2.0, which we understand that maybe the deadline could be too aggressive for the Notebooks working group to have on time. But we understand that we could also add this component because it's still under all of our beta. So it's not something that is still production ready. So I believe we're good to add in a patch release Notebooks 2.0. And there's also training operator v2 API. That's also something that it's still not, we don't know yet if we have enough time to release the v2 APIs for Kubeflow 110. But yeah, we are very positive. We would like to see all of them in the first Kubeflow 110 release, but we are also planning for plan B for any of these features that we cannot finish on time for feature freeze.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And model registry, would you consider its deliveries? Is there anything that you would hold 110 for on the model registry?
No, there is nothing specifically beyond the fact that the main theme for will be the UI. So in the Kubeflow model registry for 110 roadmap, we identified the UI as the main theme for us. There is still some ongoing discussion about what further classify, because the team is working hard, the team on the UI, to provide the ability to, for instance, browse models, browse the model that are registered, the different attributes. In the past bi-weekly meetings, they have done some demos to the update. When it will come to some integration aspect, for instance, in the main Kubeflow dashboard, that remains to be seen if it can be achieved in time. But I would say this is the main interest and theme for the 1.10 that so far is progressing fine. There are also, of course, other considerations that we are having, but I would say the main theme, I want to make the spotlight for the UI there.
Great update. Great update. Okay, well, looks like we're getting this all together. Let's just look and see if there's anything coming up here. The 18th, I guess, looks like to be a date that would be coming up in November. So we need to think about what actually we're working towards there. With the 50% completed, but just a reminder that that will be coming up faster than what we think, especially with KubeCon coming up and people taking some time to go and do that. Let's, I think that's pretty good for the update. Is there anything else that we need from the release? Anything from any of your cohorts on the release team?
We're good.
Okay, let's move on, I guess, to the main agenda. The first item again, Ricardo, new workflow for documentation changes. Do you want me to click into this or do you need to just talk to it?
Yeah, perfect to do this. I don't want to spend too much time in this. It's just a follow-up topic about what I described in the past meeting about a new workflow for updating documentation for Kubeflow. So I describe it, what is the current problem, what is the proposal, some advantages, what is the next action here, just like Andrew suggested, is to convert this to a key EP and add it to the community repo. But as for now, I really appreciate if people have any other feedbacks to add. It will be very valuable for me, and then it will help me work on this KEP for the documentation changes. I'm really confident that this might make documentation changes way more scalable, and we can cover as much more component documentation as possible.
I'm still pretty against putting the docs in the code repos, but other ideas around versioning and stuff I think is where I'm most interested in seeing changes.
Yeah, sure. Take a look at the humorous comment here. Maybe there's something that we could cover with your concern. But I really appreciate if you can also get your feedback in this, and then I'll see if I can find something to cover your main concern.
I just think that anyway, it's more like just from a anyway. I just think it's easier to keep them separate. I know that some people would disagree, but they're different things, right? Code is one thing and docs are another thing. And they don't necessarily need to be versioned together. Is the primary reason.
Sure.
Like you might want to update docs for an old version, for example.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. After all, I think this is not something that I would like to enforce for any working group, because my understanding is the nature of Kubeflow communities to have their working groups independent. But if other working groups understand that this is the way we should go with, and we have like maybe 3-4 working groups that accepts that way, this will still bring some improvements in documentation changes, you know.
But like what I'm saying is, if it's a complete blocker if you can't update old versions of the docs, and I don't see how you would do that with your approach.
Right.
Sorry, Trump, Ricardo. Like I see how we can do it with this approach, right? Because we have release branches on the code repos. If we
Sure.
have release branches on the code repos, we can always have a cherry pick on the release branch and update the previous docs.
Sure. I mean, that seems like it'd be quite a logistical nightmare.
I don't think it will be a logistical nightmare given they have the same situation on the existing website.
What do you mean?
The same problem on the Kubeflow
Well,
website.
but the difference is there's versions for each component under your approach.
Yeah, but again, my suggestion was to see how Hugging Face is doing, because they're exactly solving this problem with iframing the UIs for the different documentation pages. They have a ability to select the branch on every component they provide. But for me personally, I like this approach, given that the contributors don't want to contribute to the website repo, but they want to actually, update the docs and the code with the same PR usually. So yeah, but anyway, I think we need official cap to move forward.
Yeah, definitely people want to, like having a link to the docs PR or having that be a blocker for anything which claims to be a feature might just be easier,
It's not only this, it's for example, like, docs that is auto-generated. Like Kubeflow pipelines should have a separate website for SDK docs, which is painful because if we serve the docs on the same website, they don't need to have this.
Sure. I mean, maybe that there are SDKs sometimes end up on different pages. I mean, even Kubernetes does that, right? Like, I think sometimes it makes sense. Anyway, the point is, like, my main problem is just that there's a lot of logistical things that happen on the website, like common templates that are going to have to be duplicated a lot or just be really confusing on the end. Like, how does the end user test their docs work and look good when they're editing the PR on their repo? And then how do we store docs that are like, anyway, all I'm saying is, I think my suspicion is that we probably will end up being like something might be good here, but I think the general discussion should be around how we can improve the docs overall, and it doesn't need to be this way specifically. But if it ends up being this way, that's fine. But I just want to be careful.
Yeah, if there are other approaches you could suggest, go for it. Just give me feedback in this issue. I really appreciate any other feedbacks here. But like I said, I believe the experience we had with syncing manifest could also be applied to documentation changes. But if you believe that's not the right way to do it, let me know what would be other options here. We can cover this in the cap.
Yeah, I mean, we can keep the discussion going, of course. Manifest has its own set of problems, though, as we have sometimes to apply patches and other things like that. And it means that it's unclear where PRs end up. And also just the fact that historically we haven't done this. But yeah.
Okay, so we've got the issue open. People can comment on it. I think this is a great initiative because we do need some process to improve our documentation. So I know that we've got a lot of legacy work here, but let's see if we can find some type of solution. What time frame do we need to kind of clean this up by so we can start making progress? What's the
honestly,
next
Josh,
timeline on this?
yeah, sorry. Honestly, Josh, I don't believe this could be possible for 110, but I believe we could start implementing something for 111. But it all depends on where we go with the CAD progress and how much acceptance we have across the working group leads.
Okay. Is there some tangible next step that we need done? Like, is there something that we can shoot for in some time frame?
Yeah, an immediate next action here is to convert this issue to a cap while collecting some more feedbacks. And with the cap done, then I believe I'm depending on Andre to see what are the next steps after the cap is done.
Okay. All righty. Do you want to keep moving on?
Yep.
All right. Is that good for this issue, or do we need more discussion here?
Yeah, for any other ongoing discussions, I really appreciate to see those in the issue thread, because that way I can get those feedbacks and properly covered in the cap.
Alrighty. I think we've got our next steps. Okay, to move on to status of Kubeflow manifest repo. Question mark, question mark.
So yeah, if you want, we can speak it after Matthew's update for Notebooks 2.0. Or do you want to speak about it right now?
Well, what is it? What is the issue?
I mean,
You-
it's very quickly, but I just want to understand the community opinion on contrib and apps folder on the manifest repo, and what is our long-term plan there. I don't see Julius on the call right now, but I think just to give a quick overview, I know that today in the manifest we have some sort of the contrib components, which was probably created after Kimonos created an enhancement proposal to introduce a directory for components which is not maintained under Kubeflow org. Like it could be add-ons. I think right now we call them contrib under the manifest repo.
yes.
So right now we put Spark operator under contrib, which probably we should move towards apps. But in general, I just want to understand the vision there and whether we really need to have this folder in the manifest.
Yep. Personally, as a both distribution owner and someone who gets a lot of spam from the people who need help with manifests, my perspective has always been that the manifests intended audience needs to be clear, and I think the intended audience that I see them has been for distributions and advanced users, and in which case it's a bit weird for us to be distributing other projects' code. I'm not saying that people shouldn't be able to make distributions that include other people's code. That's what everyone does. But it's just a bit, it causes a bit of confusion for end users as to like, okay, so I installed this tool through Kubeflow, but then why are we supporting that? Who's supporting that? You know what I mean? Like it makes it unclear. It's not really a distribution. If it was a distribution, it's fine because it's then not part of Kubeflow. But because it's in the Kubeflow repo, it's the problem.
Yeah, that's right. So I have slightly similar opinion. I know that again, I can link this proposal from Kimonos. I think it was a couple of years ago when they introduced this contrib directory. But the main goal was to put the add-ons there, right? But who has decided what is add-on? Like, do we even need to have an add-ons, right? Given the discussion around, project donation. Just want to hear opinions from folks here on the call, at least.
Okay, well, let's introduce this now, and then maybe we're catching people a little bit flat-footed. Let's let them think about it. Maybe we'll bring it up again next week. How's that sound, Andre?
Yeah,
So-
sure. I'm happy to bring up to this next week. It's totally fine. It's more about like, who is the primary maintainer of manifest repo, what we should put there, and what should be the goal for our users to have this manifest repo, right? Because as Mario said right now, it should be the primary point for distributions, right? Or for people who want to try out the whole Kubeflow installation, right?
Or
But
build their
yeah.
own custom distribution effectively, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
but maybe some, again, I remember that, we have some users who just want to try out, right? Without even
yeah,
using
yeah. And we need to be able to run unit tests as well. Like that is in my mind equivalent to being able to run unit tests, end-to-end unit tests. But there is some problem even with suggesting that people try it out, just because people will try it out in production and then ask us for help. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But in any case, I still think some clarification for users. I'm not saying we shouldn't have a way to install it, like not. There is like just some some discussions to be had around the extra components. Absolutely, we need to talk about that. My preference is to remove them, but the other aspect of who the intended audience is and whether we are like, I think my proposal is as follows. We should get rid of all the external non-Kubeflow components manifests and make sure that we make it clear that the reason we're doing that is not because we don't like those tools, but because we don't want to maintain the deployment method for those tools. And then the second thing is make it clear that the intention is to have users be able to try it on kind, and also make it as easy as possible for distribution owners to make downstream distributions that run on anything else. And if you want to use it yourself to make your own distribution, that's acceptable. But the intention is for kind users to test and distribution owners. Anyway, that's my proposal.
I have a question. So, for example, let's say that if there is no, in my setup, for example, we use RKE. So if there is no distribution owner for that, the manifests installation was quite useful in that case.
First, I mean, RKE is welcome to make their own distribution. Of course, two of the distributions do officially work on RKE, both mine and Canonical's. It's a bit confusing on the website because it does say all distributions on some of them, but RKE is definitely used by hundreds of, maybe more people with deploy KF at least. But I'm not saying that deploy KF is your only option. Again, you can still make your own distribution.
I think, Matthew, just to make it very clear, like, we're not saying, Tarek, that we're going to remove manifest. So my question was about what we should do with the contrib directory. Because right now the manifest also introduced some sort of the dependencies which can be optional to install. And I know that it can be useful for some users, but the question, where is the community, do we want to maintain it as part of the manifest repo, right? But, because and I still see the value of having the manifest, Matthew, back to your point, because yes, distributions are great, but there still will be some power users who want to do everything by themselves, right?
But that's, in my mind, a kind of, if we making a distribution as easy as possible, you know, we have versions for each component, or we make improvements that make that easier, you know, then we're also improving the experience for advanced users because they are just distribution creators effectively.
This
I think
like a conversation in the manifest working group. I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm glad to let this go on a bit longer, but we have other items. So how do we clean this up to a place where we get to a, like, what are we doing? What are we trying to get to here?
We need folks from manifest working upon this call maybe next week, or when Julius is available, or maybe Camonas can join us and continue the conversation.
So yeah, I think what we should do, and it's a good idea in general, is to make the manifest working group. We can have a mixture of really advanced users and distribution owners as the stakeholders in that group. That's my proposal for the community. I've thought about it for a while, that I think it should be the whatever, you know, distribution working group. I don't know, maybe it's not the right word, but it's effectively, because it will make distribution owners more connected to the upstream manifest, which makes it easier for them to keep up to date. It's a way that we can encourage distribution owners to come into the Kubeflow community if they don't contribute to each individual component as well. Yeah.
Right, but here's kind of a thing, and I like the fact that we can use this meeting to do some detail, but is this a longer conversation that needs to have its own kind of back and forth, and should that be done in the manifest working group rather than here? I don't mind if you guys think we need to do it here, it's fine, but I think it probably, the details are, and then we just report back this, you know, what we're thinking here. All right, we got a thumbs up.
I mean, we don't need to take the time now. I just do want to say that I do think the overall community needs to be aware of what we decide, though, because it is very important to the end user experience.
I totally agree, and I'm glad we got the broad strokes out. Let's keep going if we could, if that's okay. Notebooks 2.0.
Yeah, so we're still progressing on this. There's obviously a front end being worked on now by Red Hat. There is a back end being worked on by some people. The back end obviously is not the controller. There's three components: controller, back end, and front end. hopefully that will have some nice mock-up UIs to show at some point. Not mock-ups, wrong word. Some UIs to show at some point in the near future. Yeah, so so if you're interested in contributing Go or React code, please reach out to me on Slack, and I can point you to the right people who are working on each of those components. So also I just wanted to highlight that we are trying to get official AMD notebook images into the Kubeflow notebooks repo. This is not for notebooks 2.0, just in general. We've got official Intel images now, but we've been trying to do it. I've been working with some people from CERN to try and figure it out, but the issue is that AMD seems to have some issues, which is that they can't run non-root containers. So at least not in a way that would be generically applicable. So if you have lots of experience, what I'm asking for with AMD AI accelerators, if you could join our little project to try and figure it out. I've reached out to AMD to fix this issue, but it's like some kind of permission issue. It seems pretty complicated to fix without them fixing their underlying implementation of their drivers. So the issue just fundamentally is that they mount their devices directly into the container, but the way they do it, Docker/containerd does not correctly set the permission of the device to be readable by a non-root user of the container. And if we then try and add the groups to the container user, the group IDs are random based off the host's GIDs, so they can't be mounted correctly. Anyway, the point is, we'll see what AMD comes back with there, but if you happen to already have experience doing it in non-root, I would love to hear from you. If anyone wants to say hi, they can say that now, or just message me on Slack. Also, people who have testing infrastructure is even better, because then we can have more testers.
When is the next notebooks working group meeting?
It's usually every second Thursday at 8 a.m. Pacific, so same time as this meeting. So this week, in fact. So Thursday, 8 a.m.
Thursday, 8 a.m.
Pacific.
Pacific.
Yeah.
Okay. And are there good first issues if new people want to come in? Can you hand them off some things to get them fired up and get them running? Is it looking good that way, or?
It would be best if they have experience with like as long as they have the required experience. Yes, yes. It's not there. There probably wouldn't be space for people who are new to development in general. But if you have experience for making controllers, or if you have Go coding experience or React coding experience, that would be great. Or designers and stuff too is fine.
Fantastic. 8 a.m. Thursday.
And you can join the calendar does seem to have problems at the moment, but you can just add it. Yeah, there's a bit problematic because how do people add it without? Yeah. Do we have this problem, Josh? Have we solved this problem? I don't think we have yet. Where people joining the Slack, the Kubeflow Discuss no longer gives them the invites.
Yeah, I don't know, but they can get the invites off the website, right?
Yeah, but the problem is they won't get the updates to the invites. But yes.
Okay.
Unless they add the calendar itself. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, people can at least the notes and the meeting ID and all that stuff is there. They can at least get started Thursday, 8 a.m. Okay. Good. Anything else on Notebooks 2.0? Very exciting work here.
Yeah, I mean, some of the PRs need to follow up with some of the contributors, but yeah, it's going along. If so, again, please reach out if you want to help out, if you have experience with Go or
we could definitely use some end users to be providing some effort here. All right, Kubeflow training V2 updates.
Yeah, similar to Matthew, maybe I can share a quick update from our side. So usually we discuss this in every Wednesday in the training working group calls. So again, like just to give an update, right? So we finished an API, we finished some of the job pipeline framework that I can maybe talk about in the next 5 minutes. And we also have some progress in, code generation and manifest. So right now we're working on actually LLM runtimes because we need to have storage initializers and dataset initializers for this. In addition to this, like we need to still design the Python SDK and other parts in terms of creating other blueprints for fine tuning. I think we're planning to have the initial implementation by the KubeCon, so in 1 month. It will be like some sort of MVP. Probably we will cut the release for these V2 APIs. But eventually we probably have just maybe one LLM runtime to fine tune maybe one of the Llama models, and maybe just the PyTorch simple distributed runtime for distributed training on multiple nodes. We also try to contribute some features to Kubernetes directly, especially on the job set side, like support serial job execution for initialization and distributed training. Also support like elastic training and other parts for the job set. So we have already some new contributors, so thank everyone who actually volunteered for this. But if you also want to be involved, reach out to me. I can help you to get on board and start working on some good first issues to move forward. So Josh, if you want, I can share my screen to maybe give overview of job pipeline framework for the community as well.
Please, yeah, we're at 44 minutes, so please take what you need.
So yeah, maybe I can spend 3 more minutes on this. So again, I will probably won't go through all of this, but as part of the V2 APIs, we actually designed the completely new framework, which allows us to actually register the custom runtimes. So I think the main goal is, if you're following like our idea, we want to split the training operator between 2 new CRDs called train job and the training runtime. And the main goal is to have a different personas in Kubeflow. I have data scientist persona, who usually like just want to work with the PyTorch APIs, and have DevOps or MLOps engineer persona. And because those folks usually split, we want to provide a different set of CRDs for each of them to actually get a benefit from training operator. So the goal is to create the 2 runtimes called class of training runtime and training runtime, where platform engineers or MLOps engineers define the blueprints, which basically, and then the data science persona kick off the train job, which actually fetches data and do the actual training on the Kubernetes. So the goal of this pipeline framework is give us additional extensibility on top of the existing runtimes. So today, as I mentioned, we have 2 runtimes, 2 CRDs called training runtime and cluster training runtime. But we're planning to actually support more runtime in the future. Like, for example, Slurm runtime, or maybe Flux runtime, or any other runtime your company have an in-house implementation for. So this actually allows you to register your custom runtime within training operator to perform model training or even maybe HPC type of task. Like maybe you do some simulation on top of Kubernetes. So we designed this pipeline framework, which actually has 3 different phases, like registration phase with the now manager, the validation phase with the webhook, and the main phase, which actually does the orchestration. And again, this is still in progress, but the goal is give you the ability to register the custom CRDs and give you an ability to reference these custom CRDs via this training runtime ref. I think we will rename it to runtime via runtime reference API field within train job. So the situation could be you have a Slurm runtime, which basically uses Slurm node set, I think they call the CRD behind the scenes. And when you kick off the train job, it will actually use the Slurm runtime to create the appropriate Kubernetes resources, like node set or any other resources that your CRD is using. And also have an ability to actually register the custom plugins. So this also, I probably won't go through all the details, but the idea is every runtime has a set of plugins. Like we have a plugins for gang scheduling, we have a plugins for PyTorch, we have a plugin for API. And also if you have your custom plugin, we also have a plugin for job set to actually generate the job set object when you create a train job. But maybe if you have your custom CRD, you can register your custom plugin, which basically can create your own custom resources when you start a train job. So this is very interesting because it actually gives us a lot of flexibility and extensibility on top of what we have existing in upstream. And then you can use this for maybe your own custom CRDs that you probably want to use when your users do model training, right? This is the rough idea. Again, try to go through details. If you want to have any questions, reach out to me. But in the future, we want to support more plugins and more runtimes in addition to training runtime and cluster training runtime, which is using job set behind the scenes. Any questions for this? All right. In that case, reach out to me if you have any follow-up questions. But again, this is still in progress. This give us more flexibility, what you can run within Kubeflow training, and like how actually this could be useful for a different set of use cases, for different models. Yep. Back to you, George. Then.
So Andre, this will give us more functionality and result in less setup likely for the end user because there'll be some of the work done for them already, or on the broad strokes on this?
Yes. So similar to, for example, like how if you're aware of Q, right? Like the dispatcher, right? So Q has integration with different CRDs like behind the scenes, right? It can, dispatch the RAID jobs, it can dispatch the PyTorch jobs, it can dispatch any, like the set of jobs that actually supports for dispatching. Similar to different functionality, but again, like we also introduced the support for other CRDs, right? Which allows us to actually start a train job based on different custom resources that you might have an implementation within the company. So instead of forking the upstream training operator, you can basically extend it with your custom runtimes and then use it when you actually do training on top of Kubernetes.
All right, so this sounds like another kind of inherent advantage of a good architectural design that should help both administrators and users develop things faster.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right, let's get back to wherever we were. What is the next schedule on the Price is Right? Thanks for that update, Andre. Let me see if I can get back to where we were. Sounds like a movie. Okay. I will transfer issues based on issue migration. So are we on this one, issue migration?
Yeah, maybe a quick update, right? So thank you again, Biswat, for doing this. I just went through all these issues. I think Julius and Matteo also did it. So Maria, if you don't have any strong objections, I can just move forward and do this.
Which ones are because some of them don't. The goal was that 2 people should agree on every issue, whoever 2 people are. You know what I mean? That's the goal. Just to have like 2 eyes on everyone. I see you've moved some of the more obvious ones already, and that's fine. But the so some of these don't have secondary actions, and even so I can go through some of them if you want. Like I can't probably go through them all today, but obviously, but if you, so again, my goal is just to have 2 people review. I don't really care if 2 different people review, but.
So I know I can reach out to Julius, but I think Julius also reviewed all of them. He just didn't put any comments here, as I can see. If you scroll down, Josh, you will see his comment on the.
He's done some of them. He just didn't do many of them. See?
Let me ask Julius if
Because yeah, again, it's the same as everything else we do in Kubeflow. 2 people should be required minimum to do anything, right? That's just a goal. Yeah. I'm not trying to say we don't trust you. It's just it's very easy to make a mistake.
Yeah, I understand. Matteo, are you in the call right now? Or...
Yeah, sorry, I had some problem with my connection, so I dropped for a previous part of the meeting.
No worries. Did you get a chance to actually review some of those issues? I know you have some comments there.
Yeah, so what I did is that when I got access, I reviewed some in my columns that are more close to INJ. And actually what I take the time is that specifically for some that maybe was worthy to cross-check, because I think that Andre, we concurred that on some the evaluation was not correct. And I think that you corrected. So we converged on what we found. And specifically for the one that were flagged as closed, I thought about double checking them So to make sure that nothing was done by mistake to indicate as closed. That was the approach that I've taken. But also me being kind of like a relatively new to the Kubeflow ecosystem. So this is my interpretation.
All right, let me reach out to Julius and then we can move forward then. All right.
I also want to be careful about moving things to manifests that are kind of ambiguous. So manifest ends up being this kind of ambiguous place sometimes where things go that maybe cover multiple components, but I'm not sure that that's the right place for them, you know? But yeah. Not your suggestions, I mean, it's in general.
Okay, so we're making progress there.
Again, the goal of this, if no one's, started talking about it without explaining, the goal is so that we can make it so that the Kubeflow repo doesn't have any issues on it. That's the goal.
All right. Website update.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to give a quick update here. The version age thing, obviously someone did give a review. I was just giving more chance for people to do reviews before responding to everyone, but only one person did. So we removed the little warning symbol, whatever it's called, skull. Of course, someone else reviewed and did some things. Again, as I was saying, the discussion is still around whether we have the gray versus blue. I still think that's one of the key values to this PR. I mean, obviously the date information is valuable, but I really do want to see the PR merged with some kind of indication about, like, there is very old versions in some cases. If someone has a different idea that if they really don't like the colors, is there any other suggestions people have for ways to indicate like three minor versions old, you know?
Well, as an old person, making gray look bad, I think that's very.
It's not bad. It's just indicating.
I'm only kidding, man.
Like my statement is more around drawing the user's attention as well. This is a very overwhelming page, and I just want to also, that's my main intention here. Yeah. Matteo?
Yeah, if I may, Matthew, first of all, thank you. And I've added a comment, a couple of comments there. One is about the gray color, but also one is about the copy, the text copy that is for the kind of like the on-over from 2 or 3 from last release, because I suggested a correction over there in the pull request. So Josh, if you want to scroll to the very bottom of this page, you should find it. Simply because, at least in my opinion, this gives a bit, it's a bit sort of like assuming. So I thought that this was a more correct or sort of like appropriate message to give in that case. I really like, for instance, the fact that on the popover, you have that kind of like, oh, it's 3 release down, it's 4 release down, whatever it is. And then the suggestion. I think that is very helpful for everybody. And that is the main sort of like correction that I thought about proposing. But at least that's from me. Thank you.
So how about another option would be, so yeah, so I mean, if you don't like the wording, that's fine. It looks like you only didn't like one of them, which is the last one.
Because if I can try to say differently, the original, like this distribution may no longer be supported by its maintainer, sounds to me a bit like a FUD. While, for instance, if we say what is our intent here? We want the people that maybe are looking at that to go and find them. So let's be explicit. Let's say we recommend for you to confirm with the distribution.
Which is actually what the 2 from latest says. You're right. I did that on the 2 from latest because I just assumed 3 from latest is so far from so long in the past that there's no way that it could possibly be maintained anymore. But you might be right. Maybe we should be just slightly more forceful than the 2, if you know what I mean. Like just a little bit more. Yeah. I'm not against doing that. Yeah.
It's just a proposal because I think it's more like less assuming and less FUD, if you excuse the way of proposing. And this is more actionable for the people, like, oh, this is what you should do, that we strongly, you can even put strongly if you prefer over there.
Yeah, we could say we strongly recommend you check with the maintainers this distribution, maybe, or something to that effect. I mean, I agree that maybe saying this distribution is, I mean, again, I still think it's unlikely that in any like future conformance program we would allow someone to be that many versions out of date. But you know what I mean? But like it is, yeah. I'm fine to make that last wording less forceful. I just want to also highlight, so the gray button, like, you know, obviously part of me, like the fact that it's gray makes it maybe seem like I'm degrading that one. But what I'm actually trying to do is the reverse. I'm trying to draw people's attention to the newer ones, right? The reason it's just gray is because it is a button and it does have an interactable element. So it needs to have a color that is different from the page. And if I make it white, it may not show up, and it won't be clear that it's a button. So that's like, because obviously the goal is to like draw people's attention, saying, okay, if you've never seen any of this, again, also we even had someone in the meeting today though, and maybe we need to think about it. Say, hey, there's no official distribution for RKE. Well, obviously there's no official RKE created distribution, but there are 2 distributions on here that support RKE, and maybe that's not clear, you know, for end users. I mean, clearly it isn't. All certified Kubernetes distribution seems a bit confusing for some people, probably. But I
know you're selling the gray hard. I'm still not sold on the gray stuff, but you know, I'm going to defer to whatever the
but what's another way to do it then?
Say. So that's just my opinion. I would just leave it with the hover, and I think people are smart enough to say, oh, there's 1.8s and there's 1.7s and there's 1.6. I mean, you're like, wow, wait, 1.6 is behind. I get that maybe people don't understand, but these are sophisticated users, right? They're not.
So what are you suggesting the default color be then?
I just make them all the same. That's just my gut feel, but I'm glad to defer to whatever.
I'm gonna say, should they be blue by default or gray by default?
I'm always, blue's my favorite color, so you know, I'm always gonna defer to blue.
It might be a little bit overwhelming for the users being all blue, but yeah.
Yeah, I get your point. I kind of understand now, looking at the point that you can hover over it, and it's a bit confusing because you'd have both the release notes and then you'd have the fact that you could hover over it and it would bring.
Part of me also thinks we should move the release notes for the distribution under the link section of the page, because it's release notes. I mean, it is obvious, like a reference for that version. I guess that makes sense. I think it's, yeah.
So look, we were trying to get this resolved by the end of the month, right?
Yeah. And I'm happy to make changes that people want. So if people want me to make them all gray, that's fine. We can do that. Is that okay? Is that what I mean? That's what I'm saying, Josh?
Not up to me. My visual is blue, but you say blue may be too much. I appreciate that as well. So I'll defer to.
Do you want to flip a coin and make a decision so that we can end the conversation on this?
I mean, I don't think that's a great call for design, but I think there's also one exception, which is that the latest version does get bolded, and I think we should still allow that to happen, right? Like 1.9 would get bolded in this case.
Can we just take a vote right now? Is this unfair? If you're a gray, you know,
I think we can all just do gray. I think if we all disagree that gray would be acceptable, I think that would look the best, personally. Or, but maybe I'll make the gray a bit darker so that it looks less deprecated gray. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense. Any other opinions?
So
I'll see what looks best, and we'll try both. But and also remove that wording concern.
So just if we merge this PR as is, you should all be aware that all of the distributions will turn to gray because there's not in the docs any distributions that gets updated to 1.9 yet. So
no, so this versioning, the versioning is you get grayed when you're more than 3 from the latest. Oh no, you get gray when you're more than 2 minor versions out of date. So when you are the 3rd version. So in this case, it's 1.7 that's gray. So that is reflected in the photo.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's about a year. Yeah, it's about a year.
So we're still gonna have different colors for different versions, aren't we?
Well, so that's another option as well, that we could just have different grades of blue. You know, I could make a lighter blue, but then which one's more new? You know what I mean?
No, I mean, my suggestion, we don't distinguish version on this page.
You mean the color of it? You don't color it.
I mean, I would even remove it completely from this table, from my personal perspective.
I really think the version's very important to, it is our only carrot to help distributions want to update. And also it just helps users, right? Like they need to know what version they're using.
No, I think the version, yeah, it is helpful. People that they do like to know. But I do think there's utility. I think that probably it makes sense to do what's the most simplest thing for users, because I think there's a lot of information embedded in the screen. I took a look at the PR, and it's a lot. I think that, you know, showing the version number is a lot of very useful information for probably 90% of most users.
So also, I guess we could make it not gray, but just light blue. How about that?
Blue's my favorite color.
So the question is light blue newer than dark blue, or is dark blue newer than? You know what I
So,
mean?
Matthew, you still want to separate them, right? I thought like Josh was against it, isn't it? Like, I'm misleading it, like this information.
No, what do you mean?
Like Josh doesn't want.
I would
if-
prefer them all to be the same color, but
Yeah.
why? It's not my decision, right?
Like, I mean, your personal opinion, right, on this?
Yeah, but in the same respect, I get the whole idea that, you know, better blue, lighter blue, gray, bad old person, right? Bad old version. Right? I get it.
So I think
I think we can make it any color, but we need to check with an accessibility person who does this, because some colors for folks who can't really see them, we have a lot of developers out there, even in the kernel community, who are legally blind but still access websites and stuff, that colors make a difference. So make it whatever we want, and then let's seek some guidance on what color is best for accessibility purposes.
Yeah, plus one to that. And I think like here's my honest view here, is that like I think having a light blue is great, or a gray. I think having the number is the most useful information, because that's what people care about. Us trying to be judgmental with the color, I think, is actually a distraction, if I'm going to be frank, because we're trying to impose some sort of like distinction about the number, where it's like, okay, the number tells you, right? Like everyone.
And also, even when you hover over it, it tells you how old it is now. That's the main improvement, right?
And that's great. So I think like trying to create like a color continuum between gray and blue, or shades of blue, is just a rabbit hole that maybe isn't.
Yeah, I agree. I think they should all be
color.
light blue. I think they should. Anyway, so other than that, I do want to highlight one more thing we're not doing in this PR is how can we make it so that all certified Kubernetes distributions is less confusing?
Yeah. What do you mean, Matthew?
It's just people seem to be confused about that. You know, we're talking about the fact that if we make the manifests clearly for end distributions and advanced users, then most users should be using a distribution then, right? That's kind of what we're saying. And right now, users of people look down this list, and then there is two very distinct kinds of distributions here, which again, we talked about having a separate table, but there's reasons why we didn't do that. Which, like, some of them are only for specific platforms, and some of them are only for all platforms, you know? That's kind of...
Yeah, we have Canonical and DeployKF, right?
Yeah. So yeah, it's just, I just want to, highlight that. Also, that we didn't get to see it, but the DNS updates we are currently working on for the website as well, so that we can get the old websites updated again. Previously, we couldn't update them. We're chasing it down who has control of it. It now looks like we have CNCF control of it.
Yeah, I think it looks good.
Okay, cool. So I'll make it all light blue and remove that wording.
Yeah, I think the main point that Francisco and Josh is making, and I have the same thought, is we should have the same color, at least for now, and maybe have this, hover that you introduce in your PR, right? And the color for version will be the same. Same, I think, Markellos mentioned, right? It doesn't really matter. Like, it's obvious that this version, I mean, this distribution has this version, right? you don't need to even like, highlight it.
Yeah, and I agree. And especially the reason I did the whole thing is so that it tells people, hey, this is from this year, because it's not clear that users would even know what a 1.8 means, right? And then the other thing that's confusing is still the all certified distributions, which, I mean, that wording is, we could just have multiple. How about we just have multiple?
Yeah, let's talk about it next week. I got your point. I think whether we should remove it or we should, think about the wording.
We could have like a multiple and then a link to the website that says, like we have for version, release notes. We could have, if you don't just specify a single one, you'd have to link us to the list of ones that you do support. Yeah? And we just say multiple. Yeah?
I don't know, Matthew. We need to think about it, right?
Yeah.
Let's
Okay,
talk
cool.
about it.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Then. See you soon. See everyone.
Okay, cool. Is Tarek on here still? Tarek, you can. Oh, we'll stop the recording. Thanks, guys.